Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplaceddraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is probably best known as the guitarist in Bret Michaels' solo band for over 20 years now. But he's also recently released his second book called MTV Famous. And for those of us of a certain age, it's impossible not to see yourself in his story. Please welcome Pete Evick. Welcome, Pete.
Hey man, thank you for having me. That was
Oh, my pleasure.
the way you introduced that's exactly what I want people to feel. It wasn't a book that was supposed to say, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." It was supposed to say, look at us." And
No, it totally did. I mean, you know, I'm reading this book and I'm like, he's my spirit animal.
yeah,
You know? Because like
it
normally when I read musician bios, I've read a ton. I kind of skip through the beginning. Because I mean,
mhm.
I wasn't a kid in post-war England. I didn't see the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, right.
But you and I are almost the same age. We're actually just a couple of weeks apart.
Oh,
I
great.
saw myself in the entire first part of your book. I mean, from
Yeah,
dressing as Kiss in our basement to, making guitars out of blocks of wood,
yeah, the
running
whole
home
thing.
because the new Poison video was going to premiere at 3.
Yeah, we were all the same, every one of us, man. And that was important. It's like the old thing with Kiss, Kiss was I bring up the Kiss thing because at their reunion, the old motto of Kiss was for the people came came back out. And I hadn't heard that used in a long time, what they were about. And it reminded me that was the same thing as I in my first book was not even about the music business. It was just about people, and I really connected with a lot of people that weren't into music about
Mm.
that book, and the reward I received from hearing people say that it touched them was so great that I thought it'd be unique to try to pull what I did with that book into a kind of rock biography and still tell these rock and roll stories, but be inspirational and nostalgic to the reader instead of just be like, oh, look at all the great things I did.
And it totally was. And you talk in the book about being a huge Poison fan growing up. And again, for those of us growing up in the 80s, they were the band.
Right.
I believe you make your own luck, and you worked hard to get to the point of opening for and then playing alongside Brett, and you've made the
Right.
most of that. But
Right.
from a personal perspective, you know, I really believe that again, those of us that grew up then, we never lose being that fan.
Correct.
How was it weird for you to go from being the fan to having just the friendship that you have with him now?
Um, I don't know if I would say weird. Um, Not ever weird directly with him. Our friendship was instant and as if we'd known each other a million years.
Mm.
Um, Weird on that stage those first couple of years playing Every Rose. Most of it was fine, but when we'd get to Every Rose and hit that big opening chord, and I'd look out at all those people and know that I was one of those
Mm.
people, like we're talking about, and almost having an out of body experience because in my brain I should have been in the audience, and now my body was floating above the crowd out on the stage. Um, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know that I ever say the word weird is because what I always wanted.
Mm.
So, you know, I think I talk about in the book because this stuff happened a little bit later in my life. It was more of a feeling of relief
Mhm.
than anything. The feeling of, because I'd had a couple record deals. They never went great, but it was good. And I'd made a living in the music business. It wasn't like I was, and forgive me for anyone it is, but it wasn't like I was working at the 7-Eleven wishing that I still played the guitar.
Mm.
And I was grateful for everything I did, but the at the moment when I really, not the first couple gigs, but after I knew we were on tour and we were rolling and this was what it was just a feeling of everything that everybody ever helped me with was finally worth it.
Mm.
Every dollar my parents spent, every night that my friends came to the club when they really didn't want to be there just to help support.
Mm.
You got your friends, they come out and see us 6, 8 nights a
Yeah.
month. They don't really want to do that, but they're supporting you.
Mm.
And us as musicians, here's the thing that I deal with a whole lot now as I've gotten older is eventually I want to give that back because I don't go out to see anyone play because we play so much.
Mhm.
you know. And then when we don't play, I'm playing solo acoustic work back home and doing different things. And I I I don't ever want to stop what I'm doing, but if something came, like I think the next time a Poison tour happens, I think my goal is to go out and see another band every single night. Someone
Mhm.
I just want to support the people that supported me somehow. And but that list starts in 1978. You,
Yeah.
it's almost like what was that show? There was a show where the guy spent his entire life going back and making up for the mistakes he did. It was a
Mhm.
comedy, and it had a like My Name Is Earl. Did you
Yeah.
remember?
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost a version of that, but not necessarily making up for my mistakes. But I want to go back and somehow repay everybody that ever drove me to a guitar lesson or helped me do something. That it takes it. You don't get there by yourself. I know you
Yeah.
say you make your own luck, and that's true, but you do not get there by yourself.
One thing that really fascinated me about the book is when you decided to build this world-class studio and get into producing and engineering. As a kid in your 20s, what gave you the confidence and the education to
I
build and run this amazing studio?
Excuse me for the coughing. The education. I've always been a learning guy. I've always, I mean, obviously now these days, the internet, you can find out anything
Yeah.
you want at any time. But I read books and I was consumed, and I went to other local studios. And anyone that knew anything, even when I was a kid playing guitar, I didn't just have one guitar teacher. If you were a guitar teacher in town, I went to you. I
Mm.
went everywhere and I learned everything I could. Every single music store, every single thing. I am certain that from the ages of 12 to 18, I actually annoyed the piss out of every single person that worked in a music store or some kind of the music industry. Uh, Even if I would meet people, I wouldn't be like, like I met the guys in Danger Danger. I think I tell you about that in the book.
Mm.
And I don't, I'm nice to them, and they're super, super kind to me.
Mm.
But I started drilling them about the business of music. I didn't, there was a band called Heaven's Edge from Philadelphia. Do you remember
I
them at all?
remember them. Yeah.
I loved them, and
Mm.
they played a club, and me and my drummer Chuck went to see them at the Bayou in Washington D.C. And somehow we got into the back room, and they had a mobile recording studio set up. And all of a sudden, that's all I cared about. I
Mm.
just wanted to talk to whichever member of that band was running that thing and how to do it. You know what I mean? And so education, I just, I just learned. But as far as what gave me the balls, so to speak, that is my greatest gift and my worst curse. I believe I'm invincible to this day. I just believe there's nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
And I've done it with I took everything I knew from the music business and applied it to the candle industry. If you read about that,
Yep.
I
Mm.
didn't know anything about that, and now I grew my company into the one of the leading soy candle companies in the United States. I'm working on this hot sauce. Well, it's not a hot sauce; it's a marinade, but it's a company called the Virginia Sauce and Spice Company, and I have a whole new model of how that company is going to work because I'm not a cook and I'm not a food guy. I'm a foodie, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit around the rest of my life making recipes, right? But I have a whole concept that I want to apply from what I know from the music business into that company. I just you got Brett says it best: bet on yourself. And
Yeah.
you just believe that. I just believe there's nothing I can't do. So there you go.
Well, and again, you mentioned how you always had some success with your bands and with the studio, and as the book says, granted you weren't MTV famous, but you had the success. But I think what impresses me most about that part of the story is and you say yourself how you're always looking to learn how much you were willing to learn from Brett about what you needed to do to take that next step.
Sure.
We all know the great guitar player or the killer local band, and everyone wonders why they don't get bigger. You
Right.
answer that in the book. I mean, mega success is a different mindset.
Whole different thing. And I thank you for bringing that up because that was a very, very powerful moment in my life. I speak about it in the book very powerfully.
Yeah.
It was instant. It was an instant when I was standing there on that stage the first night with Brett in Detroit, and it was a physical sensation my body felt, to which I looked over and I went, "Oh, I understand what it is."
Mm.
And none of us have any idea what it is. You don't even know what it is when you have it.
Yeah.
Bret doesn't know he has it. Bret's 60 years old and still cries and whines about how hard we got to work to make it and get bigger and stuff like that. But it's not a greed thing. It's not a, he wakes up every day like Cat Dragged In never came out and like Every Rose Was Never a Hit. Every day he acts like that and he still strives and stays hungry. And I think that's another important part to keep that going. You know what I mean? But yeah, there is, it was so eye-opening. I wish that everybody in the world, and a lot of people get to do things like that, play with their heroes, like at these rock schools and fantasy camps and stuff like that now. But I don't. But like if Bret was to walk in and do a rock school, he wouldn't bring that energy he brought to the stage. It would be different. It wouldn't be what I felt that night. I almost wish that everybody that is truly pursuing a career in music had the opportunity to play one song with one of their real heroes in the real event, in a real event. And, you know, Dave Grohl lets these people do that all the time. You always take somebody up with Grohl, and I have to believe they walk away feeling the same thing, you know, because Grohl, it's not about energy. I mean, Bret has all the energy in the world and jumping around like crazy and stuff, but, you know, Dave Grohl doesn't have that. He's tied to that microphone a lot of times. A lot of people are guitar players and singers, and but man, he's 25 foot tall on that stage. He's a giant, and you know, and it just, you can practice all day long. There's always someone better than you. There's always someone better looking than you. You know, they talk, and that's the thing that cracks me up too. Sometimes the people that in the '80s, everyone, I understand the look, and the look was cool, and I had that look too. But the focus was out of whack because anybody could go buy some clothes and look like that. You know, and you want it to be original. You know, when Poison hit the scene, no one had looked like that yet. They took it another step farther, you know. And then, but then there's the flip side of that too. None of them wanted to look like that, right? You think of Motley Crue at Theater of Pain? They did that for one record.
Yep.
And got the fuck out of that and got right back to those jean jackets on Girls, Girls, Girls. You know what I'm saying? And Motley Crue and Poison, by Flesh and Blood, they were all jeans and denim jackets. You know, you did what you had to do to get noticed, thanks to Kiss, the one, Alice Cooper. They, you know, and there is a showmanship to it, but people look at the wrong reasons. That, you know, my point of that was people would focus on image and look, but then you think of people like John Popper from Blues Traveler.
Yep.
You know, that guy was a gigantic star, selling out huge places with those hits. You know, look at people today. Look at Luke Combs, Chris Stapleton, and all these guys. There's people are always usually off by just a little bit. You know, you're only off by what you're missing. You're just focusing a little energy too much on the wrong thing. And the key to that, the real story of success is always going to be, whether it's in a song or a statement on the stage or an interview, is to say something that everybody can relate to. Say something, be the people's person. And again, you can't make an effort to do that. You can't fake it. That's the problem.
You either are or you aren't. Yeah,
you are or you aren't. And you know, I'm going through this with my son right now because my son is working on a music career, and he's got this gives me chills to think about the last time I saw him perform, because he's only been performing a year, and he wants to single-handedly bring back that 80s sound, but not like all these other bands have tried to do that are almost kind of corny and goofy. He wants to bring back, you know, the Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood era stuff, or the Skid Row stuff, or the Warrant stuff, the stuff that was more well produced and well written. You know, he loves all that stuff, and we've worked on a couple songs, and he keeps writing these lyrics because he's so into it, that are like he came to me with these lyrics that were almost nothing but a good time. And, you know, and plagiarism. He didn't rip it off, but it was the story of, I got to get up early and go to work and fuck my boss and all this stuff. I'm like, Gavin, I'm your boss, and you come to work at 4:00 at the afternoon. You're faking this. And no one in your generation feels that way anymore.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, you have to write something, or even wear a shirt with a statement. You have to be the voice of a people to get to that real
Mm.
level. You know what I mean? And every rose was super powerful for Bret. I don't want to keep going on about poison, but those
Mm.
are the things I learned. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
And another part of your book that I really identified with, and you brought it up earlier, is your candle company, Shining Soul. And when you're talking in the book, you're one day you just decided, I'm going to make a candle.
Yeah.
And you did, and you had a plan and you built a company. And like, for instance, for myself, when it comes to this site, one day I signed up for a free blog and I'm like, I'm going to write something about music. And it changed my life and became this.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
I see the similarities there.
Stuff morphs too. It
You
morphs
know,
into that. Yeah.
what do you get out of that separate career that complements what you get out of your music career?
Shining Soul, particularly.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the thing with Shining Soul was that I was at this point in life where I was really dark and down with the music industry, but I'd learned so much and I was aware of how much I'd learned at the music industry, and I wanted to test myself. The entire thing was originally a test to see if I could take things that we do in the music business and apply it to an industry that wouldn't see it coming. You
Mm.
know, the marketing. If you're in a band, I don't. No matter what you think you are, you can say you're a musician or you can say you're integral. If you're in a band to succeed, you are marketing yourself.
Mhm.
You are a marketer from day one. And all the things that I learned from Gene Simmons and all the things, not Gene personally. I don't
Yeah.
know him personally, but I mean, he's an open book to his
Yeah.
success. He loves to tell you everything he did great. So, uh, I wanted to take, and all the things I'd learned from Bret and all the things in music business. The candle industry was a multi-billion-dollar American industry without any TV commercials, any discernible logos. You
Yeah.
could, and that's all I kept thinking is, what if there was a Kiss of the candle company, or Ford? I know a million people that have a Ford T-shirt that don't have a Ford car. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or a Chevy, or it's my dog Boba. um, and I wanted to see if I could apply that and change something, And but at the same time, I had this really weird thing. Like, I didn't want to seek and destroy. There's hundreds and hundreds of small candle companies, of hobbyists, people making a living as a side job. I didn't want to come and destroy that. I just
Mm.
wanted to see if I could take things from the music industry and create something different. But I had to do it with something that I was passionate about, and I was
Mm.
very passionate about the creation of the candle company. And the more I learned about what I could do to help the environment and help the American farmer, I got more and more excited about it, and that drove me harder to do it.
Mm. Yeah, and it works. You definitely is success on both fronts.
It's a struggle. Ever since COVID, the candle company is a struggle. During COVID, the candle industry boomed
Mm.
and everything was great. But then the supply chain problems started
Yeah.
happening, and we would go months without our main jar. And your jar is like your guitar. It's like Eddie Van Halen showing up without the stripes. Our look is
Yeah.
our look. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And you had to twist and bend, and then the prices went up dramatically
Mm.
on all goods. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to start gouging people for candles. You
Mm.
know what I mean? I have it's a world class product, and I do believe it's the best of what it is. But
Mm.
there's a lot of these candle markets that are candle companies, uh, that'll charge you like $80-$90 for the same exact thing I make.
Mm.
But it's marketing. It's all in the marketing.
Yeah.
Other than the kind of wax you use, a candle is a candle, and
Mm.
and to be honest with you, every one of them costs the same to make, within $1 or two. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I could make There's candles that sell for $150. I can make that exact candle in my shop for the same price I make my candle that I sell for $30.
Mm.
It's just the truth. But
Yeah.
marketing is everything. And then if you get a product, like Prada shoes, I guess you get a particular product that strikes a nerve with the wealthy, and they're willing to spend that money, and you can get that money, and then all of a sudden it turns into what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from the book, I mean, your friendship and admiration for Brett's obvious. Now, we grew up at the same time. We saw how huge and influential bands like Poison were on culture at large, not just music.
Yeah.
Yet they're pretty much ignored by something like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Do you think it ever, you know, bothers Brett or the band that not only Poison, but a lot of those bands may never get the accolades they deserve?
The truth of the matter is, I don't think Brett gives a single fuck about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a lot of us that have just led by the torch of Eddie Trunk. There's a lot of us that just let it go. It's not our
Mm,
thing. It's not our club. It's you
mm,
know. Um, I Brett's not a jealous guy.
mm.
Uh, so he doesn't spend his life in spite of why is you two and we're
Yeah.
us. He doesn't feel that way. There's every once in a while there'll be things that might have been managerial decisions or things we misstepped on
Mm,
that that will bother him, but he owns everything. He
mm,
he he is not a he's not a woe is me guy.
yeah.
That diabetes thing and his health his whole life has kept him from he's never going to cry you a river. He's grateful for his success. Like I said, he wakes up every day wishing he acting like he never wrote every rose has a
Mm,
thorn. It's really the weirdest thing you'll ever see, to be honest with you. If there's been moments where I've thought about, let me film this, and he'll be so angry at me at first, but the message I would deliver would be so positive. Eventually, he would understand
mm,
what I was showing the people. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, there's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think none of us even talk about it anymore
Mm,
in any of the camps that I don't know who's in it or who's not in it. The last thing I remember at all was Eddie Trunk raising a fit about Judas Priest, and I don't remember if they ended up making it in or
they
not. I don't.
did. Yeah.
They did well. Good. That's good
Yeah.
because they certainly deserve it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I would say the opposite of what most people think. I think too many people that don't deserve to get in.
Mm,
Maybe. That thing should be reserved for the game changers. It should be
yeah.
reserved for the Led Zeppelins and the Van Halens. I'm a gigantic Van Halen fan, and I do think it was ridiculous the way they were inducted. And that was the only time in my life that I was ever heartbroken at a choice Eddie made to not show up.
Yeah.
It but he didn't care.
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, uh, at the end of the day, what does it matter? Because uh, you get inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame past your prime.
Mm,
You've already sold all the records you're going to sell anyway. So what does it actually do for
yeah.
you? Because the fans are all I don't. I have a lot of friends that write for one of my friends, Rich Beanstalk, is the guy that wrote the Nothing But a Good Time book. He's one of my really, really good friends, and he writes for. I used to write for Guitar World, and then he
Mhm,
writes for Rolling Stone, and he does all this stuff, and he's a good friend, and he's helped me tremendously by putting me into Guitar World. And he's
mm,
done things for me that a lot of people that in my position don't get to do. Blando from Vince Neil's band is one of my good buddies, and he doesn't end up in those magazines and different
yeah.
things. And Rich puts me in those, and I'm grateful for him. But I don't get bitter for those that don't help. I just
Mm,
don't,
yeah.
and I don't think Brett does either. I just don't. We've never sat down and we've never once had a conversation about the Rock and Roll Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. So that shows you how
Says
unimportant.
everything.
Yeah,
And now, I know unfortunately you guys had to cancel the date here in Connecticut.
postpone. We
Yeah,
postponed.
postponed. Yep. We'll catch you in February. I was going to be
Yeah,
there at that one to see you.
awesome.
So after the first of the year, you guys have another run of dates coming up. What's the schedule looking like?
Um, after the first of the year, I do this thing. This will be my 15th year where my own band, Evick, we do a New Year's after New Year's show, and I do it every year. And it's a really neat experience. It's a very small version of the Sammy Hagar birthday event,
Mm,
like where all the fans I've met over the years come from all over the country, and we just have a concert in my hometown. When I say all, I'm talking about 500 people, but for little me and my little
mm,
town, it's pretty impressive. Every year I go, right when we start the show, I go, everyone give it up if you're not from here. And the place erupts. And I
mm,
usually have some of the city officials and stuff there. And we all get a kick out of the power of rock and roll because it's not even about my band playing anymore. It's the same thing as Sammy Hagar's birthday. It's a community that comes for that weekend. And I'm just an hour of the entertainment. They go out to
mm,
eat, they do different things in town, they hang out together. And so we do that on January 13th. and then we go straight to Key West for the Rock Island
Yep.
Festival. And then to be honest with you, I think we're full on. I think we at least have Fridays and Saturdays all the way up into June or July again already. so
Great.
so no
Well,
Poison for all those people that keep waiting for a Poison 2024 announcement. They all keep waiting for it, and he's not doing it. Yeah.
well, like I said, we'll catch up here in Connecticut. I believe February 9th is the
Yeah,
rescheduled
day before the
date.
Super Bowl, from what I
Yep.
understand. Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah, if you need, make sure you hit me up, and I'll make sure you're on the guest list. And I don't know if you do photos or whatever. I'll give you a
Yep.
photo.
Usually I do. Yep.
Yeah, whatever you want, I'll make sure it happens.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, we've been spending some time here with Pete Evick from the Bret Michaels band. His book is called MTV Famous. I can't recommend it enough. I love this book. I just saw
That-
myself in so much of your story that it
thank
was
you.
really great. So,
It makes
Pete,
my
it's
day,
been,
man. I'm having this terrible sick flu day, and you saying that puts a smile on my face, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
well, thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and we'll catch up
I'll see you in
in
February.
February.
Yes, sir. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.